Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer, or Jen, which most people call me by. I've put my Sunday name on there because I was very nervous. This is my first ever talk, so please be patient with me. Okay, so what we're going to go through today, hopefully without any issues. So using AI as a critical thinking tool. Claire mentioned it at the end of her talk, so I'm very much on the same page that we should be using it as an extension of ourselves, not something that is replacing what we're doing to think and be our best QA selves. We're also going to talk about a way to create that tool, create those great prompts, and get what we want out of it. And again, not just offset everything that we want to talk about. And then some common pitfalls, the mistakes that we make when we just trust everything that it spits out. So a little bit about me. I have been in QA for over 10 years. I've been in a whole bunch of industries, currently in e-commerce at OnState, which is an agency over here in Leeds. So I'm working on a Shopify platform, which up until 2 years ago was completely new to me. And we're very much a small agency, so we're trying to get more AI in there, make more people, kind of. Outside of the professional, I'm a cat owner, as much as anyone can own a cat. I am a roller derby captain. I am an avid board gamer, and I am a crafter. So from here, you can see some of the embroidery that I've done. I like to say to my devs that they cannot trust a tester who is willing to stab something 1,000 times just to make something pretty. Because I've got attention to detail. So first things first, shift left. What is it? It's a term that's been going around for a while, but I think up until maybe last year, I was not sure what that actually meant. And that is the idea that we are bringing quality earlier in the process. We're addressing it much earlier in the software development lifecycle. We're asking our questions, we're asking our what ifs, and we are there trying to identify bugs before they're even a problem in production, before they're even a problem in staging. So really nailing those acceptance criteria, really just getting out all those niggly things that we kind of forget about until the end, till we're doing exploratory testing, and just putting that into there. So we've got that really solid agreement about what we're delivering and why, and just, nailing it really early on. And this is going to hopefully give us better acceptance criteria, better user stories, making our builds more efficient, reducing the number of bugs that are coming through, and giving us much more confidence in the product that we are producing. One of the ways we can do that is by using AI. And that is building a tool that actually helps us to get closer to those really good acceptance criteria and user stories, using that generative models. So, background. In my company, we were tasked with building an entire backlog for an e-commerce store, which, blank slate syndrome. Now, one of my developers, he had been looking at this for a little while. He'd built a model which did everything from quite a technical point of view, but we have a lot of clients who maybe aren't interested in how the corner radius is. They just care that it is rounded. So what I did is I took that initial prompt that he had created and I put more of a QA slant on it, getting that QA mind, maybe a bit of a BA focus, to try and structure the output a lot more, so that it was usable within a ticket, so that we could then start building from it. In order to do that, we're using, to start with, ChatGPT. Now, yesterday, when I was running through this talk, I realized I didn't know what GPT meant. So if anyone's interested, it is a generative pre-trained transformer, or predictive text. So this is going to be talking about how we would create the context that then creates those prompts, that creates those user stories and gets out those acceptance criteria. So the first thing we've got on here, so what to include, your business context. So you know the technology that you're building on. For example, we're looking at Shopify, but if you've got a specific coding language, if you've got a specific platform that it's going on, include that. As a Shopify developer, that is something that you can then include in that. It gives the model context, it gives it a role to play. Give it rules. So if you have specific business rules that need to be taken into consideration, an out of stock product is always hidden, for example. You put that in. This is all the context that it's going to build up. Then as your tool progresses, you're going to have rules that it's always going to take into consideration when it's building your acceptance criteria. And then also some key considerations. So if you know that previous tests have always failed because of a specific scenario, you can put that in as well. There's really no limit to how much you're putting in there. Maybe the token cost, but I think that's probably your company's problem. What I also want to say, building your QA skills. So do you want it to be an accessibility test? Do you want it to look at compatibility, responsiveness? Do you want it to have more of an exploratory mind? That might be more for your MCP going forward. But, you know, all those testing principles that you might want it to consider, or such as like invest. So making sure things are developable and testable. Because the last thing you want is a mammoth ticket that is going to create loads of work for your developers, a massive PR for everyone to review, and then just how many scenarios are we putting through this in the end? You want something that is small, that you can be confident that you're going to deliver, and you're going to deliver it well. Oh, nearly forgot. Examples. If you have very specific examples of what you want it to output, so for, I can't even think of an example. Terrible example. So yeah, if you know exactly what you want it to do, one of the things I've used it for is to have example questions. So if there's ambiguity in the prompt that you're giving it, it will actually come up with some questions so that you can then think, oh yeah, actually, that is something I should have considered. And then, even more important than what to include is to include what it shouldn't be doing. So if you want it to not be too technical, you want it to avoid specific language, and maybe tell it not to solutionize, because that's what our brains are for. The other one, test it out. Try different platforms. So we have ChatGPT, we've got Claude, we've got Gemini, God knows however many others that are out there now. But within each of these, they've also got different models. So you've got like Sonnet, you've got 5.3, you've got thinking models. Each one of these is going to give you a different output. So what I would just say is take that assistant that you've built, put in a bunch of different stuff, see what gives you the best outcome. If that's closest to the language you want to use. If it's not coming out quite the way you want it to, keep adjusting your prompts. It's a builder, it's a tool, just keep going. And finally, get other people to use it. See if they're also getting decent output. Actually use it for your refinements. See how many things maybe it's spitting out superfluous stuff that you don't really need on every ticket. Maybe you just tell it not to do that anymore. So there's plenty to do. All those iterations, all that refinement, you're eventually going to get a lovely assistant that is going to get you maybe 80 to 90% of the way there with your tickets. Because as we know, we don't want it to do all the work. The original AI, or as I like to call it, actual intelligence. So hopefully you're all familiar with The Good Place, where the supercomputer Janet has a bit of a glitch and continues to give everyone cacti instead of the files that they're requesting. So AI is not perfect. It is a predictive model. It is trying to predict the next word that it thinks that you want it to hear. So we're treating it as an assistant. We're using it to get 80 to 90% of the way there. We should be treating it like a junior. I did pinch that off someone else's talk. I'm sorry. But yeah, as with any junior, you review the work. You're making sure that it's giving you what you want in that output. And that is right down in this corner. Read the output. The worst thing that I've come across while doing this is going through it in a refinement, and I say, is this a relevant acceptance criteria? And someone responds with, oh, the AI did it. And I'm like, oh, so you did not read it before you copied and pasted it and made everyone else read it. So yeah, please read what it puts out. We know about hallucinations. We know that ChatGPT got randomly obsessed with goblins recently. We don't know what it's doing. And then key to all of that, refine, refine, refine. We're testers. We know that small incremental changes equal big change over a long term and can be the difference between a good user story, a bad user story, a bad user experience. So yeah, make sure you're just checking your work, checking its work, and be confident with what you are putting in front of those clients to get that sign off, and confident that you can actually build all of the things that are in there. Okay, the scary part. I hope you've enjoyed all of the lovely hand-drawn cacti that have been throughout the presentation. This one was drawn by someone in the room. Okie dokie. So here is one I've prepared earlier. I was told the internet might not be great, but we will give it a bash. So within ChatGPT, we have GPTs. And in there, you can give it a whole bunch of instructions. So through this, I have, and I apologize if this is really small. So I've given it its role. So it's a member of an agile development team. And I'm wanting it to write a definition of ready ticket for our developers and testers. We're using invest principles. And I've spent a long time telling it what I want out of it. So what sections, how I want it to format it. So I like it with nice dividers when it comes to putting it into tickets, because I just like formatting and it splits up whole bunches of text. And then, like I say, examples. So in here, determine whether out of stock variants should be shown. So these are all like small things that you can keep adding to as well. So if you see an example of a good acceptance criteria, get it in there. One of the things I've also told it to do, because for us in our GitHub pipelines, we have a lot of accessibility actions. So a lot of the accessibility rules and code-based stuff is actually covered in those actions before it even gets to me. So I want to focus on the keyboard accessibility. So that's what I've put in there, so that I know that that's what's going to get covered off, rather than me checking every image for alt text and things like that. So, big prompt. Once we go back to the model, so within here as well, you can also upload your business context. So you have the option to upload files. If you're doing it for a specific project, you could even put like the design system in there. You can create what they call conversation starters in ChatGPT. So that's a way that if you're handing this tool off to someone else, you can have buttons that are like, what do you need to provide? What's a good user story? and they can press those and they'll get prompts out themselves to tell them how to use the ChatGPT. You can also choose your model. For this one, I've chose thinking. And then, yeah, there's so many other things you can do. But just for this one, we are doing user stories. Right, so I've told it that we're doing an e-commerce store. Who can think of a journey that they would like to see in my demo? Because I'm so confident it's going to work.
You go to buy, ordering something, and then it runs out between you selecting it and going to purchase.
Ooh. So, product runs out mid-purchase. So, as it's writing out, my glorious assistant, so we've got, as a shopper, I want clear handling when an item becomes unavailable during checkout, so I can complete my purchase without confusion or unexpected errors. It's even given me a feature name. Again, I apologize if this is a bit blurry, but it's given me a whole bunch of acceptance criteria. One of my favorite things that it does do is it creates questions as well. So potentially things that, I thought that was a J at the end, but it's a bracket. So yeah, it's asking what point on final stock check should it present the error messages. It's building that out. Should we suggest alternatives for similar products? So yeah, it's actually doing a good job at highlighting some of the things that aren't covered just in that quick user journey that I've put in there. We can go one further. So I picked Amazon for this. If I can do a screenshot. So I'm going to just copy the menu. So it will also take an image. Oh, I hope I've not broken it with the internet. Ooh. It's going to think a bit. Apologies. This is the worst part about it. So it's taken that image. It's going to then actually go through that same process with that user story. And it keeps going while you're working and talking. And because I've created something with a image, it's actually going through the design system as well. So focusing on how those cards look, how the menu looks, what the responsive behavior might be as well. So this might be more technical implementation for your developers. But one of the rules that I gave it was like, if I'm not giving you a design, don't bother with this section. So yeah, you can see that you can get a lot of information out of it very, very quickly. It is a lot to read. Again, if you're looking for sign off from people, you want to make sure that that is right before you're asking them to read so much text. You could ask it to be more concise, but you're getting a lot out of it for not a lot of time. And that would probably take maybe half an hour to write if you were thinking of it all off the top of your head. So like say, it's to get you there, maybe 90%, then do the 10% of critical thinking afterwards. And then I've done the same with Claude. So this was for a gift card, one I prepared earlier. So the other option is to just put that prompt straight into the actual message thread and get the same stuff out. Like I said earlier, each model, each platform is going to give you a slightly different format. It's going to approach it in a slightly different way. You've got to find the one that works best for your team, for your company, and then build upon that. Back to the slideshow. So, summary. Getting you from 0 to 90% fast, it's going to get you there. But always be checking. make sure that that output is what you're looking for. It is right for your context, for your business, and don't be afraid to iterate. Make those changes, even if they're tiny to start with, and then just work from there. Use it in projects, see how it goes. Whew. Thank you all for listening to my ramblings. And thank you to all my cacti contributors. They're mentioned at the bottom. Please come and talk to me afterwards if you want about anything, AI, or all the other stuff that I'm interested in. Does anyone have any questions?
You said ChatGPT got obsessed with goblins. Can you tell us more about that?
It was a very specific model, but yeah, it put everything in the context of goblins for about a week before they turned it off. It proves that even ChatGPT can have the autism.
So you used the LLM to generate all that stuff. Do you have something then that actually transfers it into a story in Jira or something like that? Or
Great question, and I actually meant to talk about that during the slide, during the demo. So the next step might be to plug that into an MCP, which can then, one that actually talks to Jira to ClickUp or to your preferred ticket management system. But yeah, that is probably the next step that you would go on. I've also seen the MCPs being creating your test plans, then actually picking up the tickets, doing the testing based on your acceptance criteria. So if we're going to go down the route of using QA agents through those models, then we need to be really good at creating those acceptance criteria so they are doing everything. So it's really shifting that quality right to the start, and then we're trusting another part of AI to do our final checks. And maybe that just leaves more exploratory testing to us in the end. Yeah.
I was just interested on whether or not, if there's any data kind of like backing up the theory that it is quicker overall. Because, it might just be me because I'm dyslexic. So for me, that reading and reviewing would probably take me longer than writing it in the first instance, and then I'd fully understand what was going on, and I'd be able to ask questions, and I'd be able to talk about it later on down the line. Whereas I guess with me just reading and reviewing something, it's less likely that I'd be able to have a conversation about it long term. I'm just interested on if it's just everybody's thinking that it's quicker, or if genuinely over the course, there's been trials run that over the course it is.
I think we're going to find out. I am the same as you. I think everyone's trying to use AI and just shove it in there and try and do everything as fast as possible. But we know that the more we understand a product, the more we're our subject matter experts, actually we can identify things a lot easier and a lot faster because we already know it. And it's knowing what to put into that context to essentially create your separate QA brain in there. So I guess it's just everything that you put it into that model, so then it's actually using a lot of your personal experience. But I'm not aware of any tests at the moment or any papers or anything that say it definitely is quicker. I just think a lot of companies want us to go down this route, so we may as well have this in our tool belt. And be ahead of the game, basically, so that we can be like, I have thought about this.
Any more questions?
Got 2 more minutes. Yeah?
I think you really nailed it in sort of saying that the part of the shift in left it and moving on to the importance of getting the requirements right. And I don't know about anyone else, but for my whole career, I've struggled with getting watertight requirements from when I want to start using them. Is that an issue that anyone sees AI actually helping to resolve, or is that just for that kind of bottleneck kind of moving more left to increase the pressure on getting those requirements right, because everything else will come along slightly easier.
I think you're right. Like we will have to ensure that everything that we're getting right at the start of the funnel has to be right for it to then move on and create those efficiencies later on. When we're introducing AI, I don't know if all companies are aware of that actually everything that we're putting in has to be on point. It has to be great. But I guess maybe that's the conversation we need to start having as QAs who have shifted left. Like, okay, our end product is only going to be as good as what we put into it. Okay.
Cool. Round of applause, please.
Thank you again.